So I'd like to welcome everybody quickly. This program is a social program. We try to focus on our social space. I am of the view that we have very large political space. When I mean large, is very, very stretched. Sometimes it's all we talk about, especially when the elections are close. Then we also have the religious space that is large in itself too. That's really also very large. But there's a space that we don't tend to respect so much, in my view, and in the views of most people, is our social space. The social space is where you and I meet, despite our political differences. Then the social space is where you and I meet, despite our religious differences. So if we don't begin to talk about that over time, it will shrink, and all we talk about will be mostly religion, religion, religion. Are we saying that religion is not good? No. Everybody is a religious being. But what we're just saying that in as much as we all cannot be the same, we all can never be the same, and our differentiation gets to start showing itself in our political, in our social space. I don't have to be a Muslim for me to be able to have my social space respected. I don't have to even be a Christian, or I don't have to be a Catholic, I don't have to be an Anglican for me to have my social space respected. Okay. So that's what this conversation is all about. And most of the time, instead of us to focus on the social space, what we usually focus on would be that what are you? You are a Christian, you're supposed to be dressed like this, or you're supposed to act like this, you're supposed to. But then there's a social divide where we have people who don't do any of these things. And sometimes we too, we may also go to a space where, as Christians or as Muslims, our space may not be respected. So that's why it's very important that we begin to look at this very simple, though very subtle, but very important, because that's what determines us as individuals. I'm walking on the road. I should be free to walk on the road without being without having to have a particular appellation. You know, I should be free to do that. I should come into a particular space and understand that, oh, there are other people in this space, so we need to respect it. So that's what we're talking about. And we started the last time with harassment. Generally, we brought in the different speakers. They talked about harassment, what they understood by harassment. We talked about body shaming. We talked about harassment a bit of harassment in our school. Like I said, it was more of an introduction. So we talked about a lot of things. So today we're going a bit more specific to the business, to the workplace. Workplace can be, as an entrepreneur, your business place. As a business owner, it can be your business space. Then as an employee, it's also your workspace. But we had to give it a general tag, which is basically work. Whatever it is that we do, whether as an entrepreneur, whether as a business person, or whether as a business owner, we are all occupying a workspace. So we're going to be looking at harassment in our workplace. Harassment. Usually what we talk about, it's when you talk about harassment, most of the time, all you get to hear is sexual harassment, blah, 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 and it's always a female issue. So we want to take it out from that space and then look at other aspects of harassment in the workplace. There are other shades of harassment. We have the discrimination, which affects everybody, whether you are a male or a female. We have different aspects of it. You have disability issues because you have this certain limitation. You can't do certain things in certain offices, or because you are a female or because you are a male. So I want to talk about those stereotypes. I want to talk about the challenges if we are encountering those things. What should we do? How should we handle it? That's the focus of our discussion today. And then, if there are any rights, what are they? If there are any. So those are the things we are going to be looking at today. And I'll quickly just introduce our guests. Then, like I said, my audience, you can raise up your hand and speak. we'll give you the opportunity to speak. You are the reason why we are here. We're here to learn. We're here to hear you, so that we're able to build along that space that we are talking about. So I have with me here Ayomide Olatunji. She's an HR practitioner and also a talent manager, HR professional. She prefers professional, and also a talent manager. So she's going to be looking at it from the HR perspective, whether as a business person, whether as an employee, or whether as a business, as an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur, for instance. I want to get to the level where I start having business. Entrepreneur, you get to do everything. After a while, you start building businesses and all that. So, Ayomide, I'd like to welcome you to this program officially. Thank you for coming and thank you for honoring us. We also have here Barrister Stella. I call her my madam. She's a labor law practitioner, an astute one at that. And she's a lawyer, like I already said, and she's focused on labor law and general rights. General rights. If your right is breached in any way, she's available to help you take it up. And we are eager to hear our rights as employees and as business owners. So we are eager to hear it so well. So you just unmute yourself and let's hear you.
Yeah. My name is Stella. Okay.
So we also have Barrister Iyanda Ayodele. He was here the last time, and then we'd like to hear him again as we look at the issues of harassment. Barrister Ayodele, would like to welcome you. Thank you for coming and thank you for honoring this invite. Thank you so much, sir. You're welcome. Okay, then we have Dr. Amoye. She will join us shortly. She's an HR practitioner, a senior consultant at that, and she was here the last time, and we look forward to hearing so much from her too. Dr. Amoye, welcome. Then I have Margaret O. I had to immediately pick her. Okay, she's here already. I have two of you here. You're welcome. Let's just wave to us so that we know that you're here. Dr. Amoye, then we'll come back. Okay, all right. Margaret, the last time was so hot we had that we had to bring her back to the program. Like she was in the audience, but then she gave a drive to the program in such a way that we had no choice but to bring her here so that we can learn from the words of our experience. Let's remember that this program is about building. We're trying to build a social space where you and I can thrive without any fear or favor. That's the truth. I should be able to do what I want to do despite my inclination. I know there are some things that will frown out. That's normal. But despite that, we should be able to allow people be. Welcome, Margaret. It's a pleasure having you. So we want to look at harassment. What is harassment? What is harassment? And then we can then relate it to the workplace. Harassment in the workplace. What is it? What does it entail? And how can we deal with it if we are faced with it? So that's it. I'd like to begin by calling Barrister Iyanda, if he's available. We'd like you to take us from where you stopped the last time. What is harassment? And what are some of the things that we need to do when we harassment? Barrister Iyanda Ayodele. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? So I'm going to unmute you now. Hello, sir. Unmute yourself and speak. You're already unmuted from my end.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I've been trying to connect. I don't know why you were not hearing me the other time. Oh, as I was saying, thank you for having me on this platform again, and I thank you for having the inspiration to organize a talk like this. It is beneficial for the society, and it is also beneficial to men and women alike. You know, these days, a lot of women are victims of harassment, and a lot of men are culprits of harassment. Some of them do this innocently. Some of them, I'm not saying all. and I'm not saying most, I said some of them, some of these men do this innocently. They do not know at times that what they do amounts to harassment and can actually lead them to their doom. About a week ago, we read of the news of of a Nigerian nurse in Canada or somewhere like that who lost his job for blowing a kiss and hugging a colleague without the consent of that colleague. And in some other climes, such would just be a way of expressing love, expressing affinity or something like that. But in those climes, there is advancement to the level that they see such as harassment. In places like Nigeria, we are just developing in that aspect. That's why I must commend you for bringing up this topic, so that it will enrich our development in this regard. So the question now as to what is harassment is not straightforward. As I was saying the last time we were on this platform, there is, at least in Nigeria, in the legal parlance, there is no generally acceptable definition or description what harassment is. It is broad, very broad, and also in Nigeria, no law has specifically defined what harassment is. So for the sake of this discourse, I will just describe what harassment is. Harassment can be described as a behavior that is intended to disturb or upset and characteristically repetitive. So what harassment does, it disturbs the victim. It upsets the victim. It's a disgusting behavior towards the victim, and it becomes an issue when it is repetitive. And by being repetitive, I'm not saying that one-off behavior or one-off action or one-off spoken word cannot amount to harassment. But often it is when it becomes repetitive that the victim takes it up and it's listed or noted as harassment, especially at the level of the workplace. And as I was saying the other time, what constitutes an harassment varies from one community to the other. As I was saying, what is harassment in Canada may not be harassment in Nigeria. For instance, blowing a kiss to a colleague in Nigeria will take some stubborn or some committed effort from the victim to pursue it and to see it to logical conclusion, for others to see it from that perspective and see it as harassment. If a man blows a kiss to a female colleague, more often than not, it will be seen as something else, not harassment. And even if the victim takes it up, some people will not see it as harassment unless the victim insists that this is harassment. I was harassed by this. It is only then that the authorities and those in charge who are supposed to take it up will now see it as harassment. So basically, because of the development in this area of discussion, some people will see as harassment, others may not see it as harassment. But notwithstanding that, there are some specific behaviors that would generally be seen as harassment, especially in the workplace. For instance, in the case of Ejuka against Microsoft and two others, consists repetitive tinkling of a female colleague was held by the court as sexual harassment. So that is the boundary. When you pass a particular boundary, all and sundry will see this as harassment. And a case that came up last month, whereby if a male colleague told a female colleague that the boobs look somehow, and so that is basically harassment. Though if you look at it from another angle, it was flirtatious, it was this, it was that. If it causes upset, if it disturbs the victim, if the victim dislikes it, it is harassment. There is no there is no forth and back about it. So that is why men women, and every other person, we have to be careful what we take as jokes, what it takes as flirtatious comments, and what have you. It's getting to that level that you have to be conscious of the work environment. Let me put it that way. The work environment is the work environment. You can't afford to be too social. You can't afford to be too flirtatious. You can't afford not to be sensitive to the sensitivities of your work, your colleagues. What you see as ordinary comment, as flirtatious comment, is harassment to another person. We are not on the same level when it comes to sensitivities. What will pull a hair from me may not pull a strand of hair from another person. So that is why we have to be careful what we see in the workplace, so that we don't cross the line. Now, in Nigeria, there is no specific law that specifically addresses sexual harassment in the workplace. But if we look at our laws holistically, there are some legislations that have tried to some extent to address sexual harassment in the workplace. One of these legislations is the third alteration to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I mean, the 1999 Constitution as amendment. By virtue of Section 254C, paragraph 1 and G of the Constitution, the Constitution gives the National Industrial Court the jurisdiction to entertain and determine cases arising from sexual harassment in workplace. Even if there is no legislation that specifically defines what sexual harassment is, the National Industrial Court is clothed with the jurisdiction to entertain cases emanating from workplaces, cases that you can call sexual harassment. And sexual harassment, it can be classified into like two areas of law. It can be a tort if I choose to see it as a tortious wrong to me. If I see it as, oh, you are trespassing on my body, if it involves touches, if it involves words of action, if it involves verbal assault and stuff like that, I can decide to treat it as a tortious liability and then go to the National Industrial Court and I treat it as such. Also, I can also treat it as a breach of my fundamental rights. I have a right to privacy. I have a right to dignity of human person. So if you breach any of these rights, I have the right to take such a breach to the National Industrial Court. And believe you me, if you prove your case by cogent evidence and testimonies, the court will award you reliefs to redress the wrong that has been done to you. And the court also is clothed with this jurisdiction to import international best practices in adjudicating over matters brought before it. What I'm trying to say in essence is that it doesn't matter that a particular policy is not in your workplace or is not in Nigeria. The court can go outside of your own workplace and import international best practice. Okay, let me limit it to best practice. Now, for instance, you work with NNPC, and NNPC does not have a sexual harassment policy in place to protect workers. If you are harassed and you decide to take it up and you get to the National Industrial Court, you can move the court to go out of NNPC and go to, say, NBA, or go to PricewaterhouseCoopers, or go to any other reasonable organization and import their own sexual harassment policy. The court can even also go out of Nigeria, go to, that is international best practice, go to other countries of the world that have developed policies in this regard to address the issue of sexual harassment in Nigeria. So it doesn't matter that, oh, we don't have that policy in my company or in my country. The court is clothed with the jurisdiction to go out of your workplace or go out of your country to import international best practice to adjudicate upon your matter. Now that I have stated a description of what sexual harassment is, and also I would like to just point out other things that may amount to sexual harassment. Sexual harassment may be, it can take any form, just as I've said earlier on. It may be verbal, it may be spoken words or sounds. It can be verbal harassment, which is considered as any conscious and repeated attempt to humiliate, demean, insult, or criticize someone with words. Verbal abuse can come from anyone in the workplace, from supervisors to co-workers, and it also can be written in play. It may not be in direct words. It may not be directly. It may be inferred from the words spoken as innuendos from what you have said. And it may also be slangs, maybe what people use on the street that you may not even find in your regular ordinary dictionary. Maybe slangs on the street. It might also be signs, maybe signs by use of hands, by use of eyes, by use of any other communication. So it's not restricted to written, it's not restricted to verbal. It can also be physical, it can be by conduct, it can be by touch, it can be by actions, it can be by gestures, it can also be by signs, as I have said. It can also be virtual, it can be digital, it can be over virtual means, it can be through emails, it can be through Facebook, it can be through Twitter, Instagram, the WhatsApp platform of the workplace, and other interconnectivity platforms for the workplace. And there are types of harassment. You have sexual, which is inappropriate touches, inappropriate deliberate flashing of private, unwelcome and offensive comments, unwanted physical advances, and requests for sexual favors. The list go on and on like that. It may be also another type is assault. That is physical. That is trying to harm someone by striking, by beating, by slapping, by spanking, by fondling, and stuff like that. It can also be religious. It can be about your religious orientation. It can be political. It can be cultural. It can be about your sexual orientation. It can be whether you are straight or you are gay, right, or you are. Hello.
Yes, sir. Just okay. Thank you. You're rounding up.
Okay. Let me round up. Yeah. Okay. Let me round up and go to the redress. As I have said, the National Industrial Court is clothed with jurisdiction to entertain cases of sexual harassment arising from the workplace. But before it gets to the National Industrial Court, I think there are steps one can take to redress sexual harassment in the workplace. Personally, I think the first thing you should do if you have a case of sexual harassment, I think the first thing you should do is to notify and express dislike to the perpetrator, to the harasser. Let the harasser know, okay, what you have done amounts to sexual harassment. I don't like it. Don't repeat it. Don't let it repeat itself. After that, you can also give the harasser, the perpetrator, a notice of cease and desist. Don't do this again. Desist from doing this. You make it more formal by doing this. And also, you can report to the to your supervisor or to any platform created for such. It can be through the HR. It can be through the disciplinary measures put in place by the workplace. So you can also report to the police. You can report to other appropriate law enforcement agents. There are some states that have specialized agencies that deal with harassment generally, sexual harassment and what have you, and they can also handle harassment in the workplace. You can also report to regulatory agencies. You can activate the sexual harassment policy of the work of your company, of your office. For instance, I am aware the Nigerian Bar Association has a sexual harassment policy that is to guide HR people, lawyers, and partners, managing partners, founders of law firms and law establishments to deal with cases of sexual harassment involving lawyers in their establishments. You can activate the measures put in place in such policies. You can also take, if it's getting worse, you can take refuge in refuge homes or other places of succor and support. There are organizations that will give you support in instances like that. And if it gets worse also, you can actually get a restraining order from the court. You can approach the court and get a restraining order, restraining the perpetrator or the harasser from getting near you at all. You can get this order. It's a protective order that you can get to protect yourself from an harasser. And also another redress is, you can, apart from reporting to the police, you can actually file a complaint. Tell the police, this is the police authority, this is what has happened, and I want to press charges. I want this to go to court. That's the criminal aspect of it. And despite that, you can also still go to the court on the civil aspect of it and be awarded damages. And if there is a backlash because you have reported cases of sexual harassment, there are also means of ensuring you are protected. There is something called constructive dismissal. If because of sexual harassment you are forced to resign from a company, you can sue that company for wrongfully dismissing you, despite the fact that you are the one who tendered your resignation letter. The court will look at it as constructive dismissal because it is your employer who has made the workplace toxic for you. Your employer has made it unconducive for you. So you can actually sue the employer and the harasser and get damages and get reliefs that may be to your benefit in this regard.
Thank you, sir. Let's hold your thoughts. I'll come back to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that was very, very instructive. And I hope we are taking notes of some of our rights. You know, these rights are there. Some of these redresses are there. Things that we are supposed to do, they are there. It's just that we don't talk about them so much. So that's why it appears that, in Nigeria, that thing is not possible. You cannot enforce it. You cannot do this. Those rights are there. The enforcement policies are also there for you. And we want to encourage us to talk about it more. It just looks like mentor, but the truth is, the more we talk about it, the more people get to know about these things. I know that it's possible for them to enforce their right. I saw a video on someone's status that that thing has happened to me physically, not workplace now, but it was like, it wasn't a skit, but ladies were working and the guy started to make very terrible comments, as in calling one of them electric pole because she had the bonbon was not, I had to use the ass or bonbon was not his size and all that. It was so embarrassing that I had to tell the person who put it up that, sorry, these are the kind of videos we put up and we laugh over it. But then when it's directed to us, it becomes an issue. But sometimes I think the general principle of leaving it, you should do unto others what you want done to you. Immediately you do that practice, it is easier for you. So maybe we'll begin to also start with ourselves. The things we laugh over, the things we tend to enjoy. You know, some of the comedy skits we find around, most of them are basically about harassment. And we laugh, and then there's no message at the end of the day saying that these things are not right. Comedy is supposed to try to correct a society by way of comic. But as we just laugh over it and the thing is funny, there's no moral lessons or there is no legal lessons, however we want to say it. So we need to begin to look at all those things closely. That's it. I'm also going to quickly bring in Stella John. Please, if you're in the audience and you have things to say, we're interacting. We're not actually lecturing. We're interacting. So if you have anything you need to say, just raise your hand and we'll call you. So I'll quickly bring in Stella John so that she also tell us our view of harassment as a lawyer and as a labor practitioner. Some of those experiences. Are these things possible? Can we really enforce it? The reason why some people will not go to court is that, you're just going to waste your time. Nothing will happen. But the question is, are these things impossible? I know they are, but I want you to tell us the practicability of these things. Quickly, let me unmute you. I don't know if you're there. You're unmuted. Please unmute yourself. Okay, please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm happy with this topic that we're discussing this evening. Before I go to talk about what I feel harassment is, I want to define what work is. Work is a mental or physical activity of human beings targeted at purpose, sometimes for fee, sometimes not for fee. And to that extent, therefore, a student in a school is also a worker. He or she is involved in the work of studentship, you know. So, and this issue we're discussing is really about labor issue. And I want to say that labor is predominantly regulated by the International Labour Organization Convention, which is the first international treaty that provides that every human being is entitled to a world of work, free from intimidation, free from discrimination, free from torture, free from violence, free from economic instability, and all kinds of things, attitudes, policies that upset the person and that can upset the person in a work environment. And work is very, very crucial. Work is very, very sacrosanct. Work is what keeps you and I going. Work is what keeps the world going. When work stops, the human being or man stops to exist. If work stops, the world will stop to exist. That you are here, Itohan, hosting this program. It's because of work. Some people are taking time to make sure that there are no technical hitches. You took time to prepare to set up this meeting. Most of us took time to prepare for this program. So it's work that basically brought us to this moment. And so harassment is any unwholesome or unwelcome attitude, conduct, anything at all that upsets a person in a work environment, perhaps on the ground of ethnicity, creed, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability, pregnancy, maternity, anything at all. There's a reason for which somebody sets out to harass you. That's what I think is harassment. And harassment can only endure or continue if you and I and everybody decides to condone harassing activities in our office. And let me also point out that harassment does not only point to verbal assault or physical assault or sexual harassment physically happening. Policies of offices can harass workers. Policies of offices can upset workers. Laws of government directly or indirectly affecting the labor market can also upset workers. Do you understand what I mean? And there are remedies. But you see, the remedy starts with you and I. The harassed victim must ab initio cry out against that harassment, because harassment reduces your dignity as a human person. Harassment upsets you and it feeds your productivity. Harassment is in breach of International Labour Organization conventions. Harassment also breaches, let me just put it that way, even the order of God. It's God that put work for humanity. So the person that harassed must raise an alarm. First and foremost, the harasser, like the other speaker pointed out. And then, if it's a colleague in the office that is harassing you have to report to the major employer in that organization about that harassment. And of course, having verbally stated that you are already harassed, there's nothing wrong putting it in writing as like in a petition to the employer. You start with the place of work. Where those remedies do not work out, you cannot go outside your place of work. You have to seek help from civil society organizations like FIDA, African Women Lawyers Association, Nigerian Bar Association. They can always come to intervene for you. And then, of course, court is the last resort. When you start thinking about court, when it's so oppressive, so depressive, it's like taking away your life, you now start thinking about going to court for redress. And I want to now point out something. that for you to establish that you are harassed before the law court, you don't necessarily have to prove economic impairment or economic disadvantage or discharge from office. Some people are so harassed that maybe because you refuse to, give your back, put your back on the floor for a man, or even put your back on the floor, you being a man for a man. My brother was working in Shell, and he used to tell me how a white man was coming after him, like two of them to become gay partner. The man was in force, and he didn't like it. He felt so upset. He was so in emotional disarray. So it's not only women that are harassed in the office. And I want to say that harassment is not entirely sexual harassment. There are so many aspects of harassment. It's cumulative harassment. For example, that you and I are on the same grade, you and I are qualified to go to the next promotion cadre, and for some reason, I am not promoted, you are promoted. That's the kind of harassment, and it's not a boy or girl or something like that. So I don't have, for this point, I'll just stop here and another of course that can.
Okay. Thank you so much. I like the fact that you have to remind us that work is part of our existence. So having this discussion, it's like we're talking about our very lives. If you take our work at the end of the day, what are we? That's the truth. Because you grow, or even going to school, you're working towards getting better so that you can contribute effectively to the society. Why are we doing this for now? We're supposed to talk about harassment, bullying in schools and all that. But during the last meeting, I'm going to the HR aspect now. Someone made mention of someone a close friend who was being harassed here and there. And the truth is, it didn't sit well with the person. And it looked more like a psychological issue for the person, because the person eventually had to mention it to the person that I said this thing concerning your issue and all that. Within the space of 2 days, I can't tell you how many calls that I got. Like, it looked like the person's life was threatened. So from all this discussion that we are saying, harassment is real in the workplace, especially when it's coming from someone who is in the place of authority. If it's with you and your colleague, we saw in course of the year, on the 3rd of January, how the male colleague, not because he's a male, it's because of what he said. Like, what's your business with somebody's body part? What friendliness would make you tell a lady that your boobs are big? I hope you're breastfeeding your child. Because we don't talk about these things, we just feel that it's normal. And the truth is, even in that conversation, the person looked really innocent. It looked like it was an innocent conversation and all that. So, because we don't talk about this, it's between you and your colleague, it's easy. And tell the colleague, stop it. When the person does not stop it, you go to your HR. Then if it's now between you and your boss, what happens? So the case I was trying to narrate is between the person and, I don't know, maybe an immediate boss. And it did sit well with the person. Well, okay, I even offered to say, okay, we would help you. Just let us know what we can do. Maybe write to the company or something, get a recording that we can use in court. The person said no, that we had to just delete that part and all that. That's a psychological effect of harassment. It can be very, very deep. So we have HR practitioners here. The lawyers have spoken. Lawyers will always say that. The truth is, lawyers will always say, like me, I'll come to you, have remedies. But how practicable are these things? How practicable? Dr. Amoye, these things we have talked about, how practicable are they? How are they handled?
Okay, thank you very much, Barrister Itohan. Good evening, everyone. And thanks for all the conversations, that has, been going on this matter. Now, for organizations, let me just quickly share that just before COVID struck in 2019, where we had gotten to a point where we're meant to implement policy and operating procedures around sexual harassment for an organization in Ghana, but that didn't happen because, of course, we had to sit at home and all that. So that's just to show that this has become an issue that organizations are paying attention to. Because one, when they are taken to court, it costs them money. There's brand reputation that's affected as well. So in the workplace, one way that we can begin to fight it is first and foremost that leadership backing is on it. In any organization where, they say oil flows from the top. So when you find people being abusive, either verbally or physically and all that, and the environment supports it, somebody sees it, people see it, or they complain and it's pushed under the rug, it's a function of leadership. So the first thing to do is for leadership to understand from a business point of view the impact of reputational damage, financial loss to the organization when they have sexual harassment issues. When leadership backs it up, then policies can be designed and all that process can follow. The next thing that I would say would be the complaint process. Now, there are different, types of harassment, so there's also the physical, there's the retaliation harassment as well. Oh, so you went to report me, I will show you. And there's the quid pro quo. So
let me just hold you there. That's what the lady was actually afraid of. That if someone gets to get this recording, and I'm like, it's too remote for someone to even trace it to you. So with that kind of level, despite the fact that names were not mentioned, organizations were not mentioned, nothing, even the person who was talking did not even mention her name, it had to get to that. So let's trash it out and be real with ourselves here as much as possible. Yes, ma'am, please continue.
Thank you. So what has happened to her is a case of, the harassment she's going through has also become psychological, right? Where someone is either being isolated or being denied in an organization or, something. So it's not just, she's become paranoid, paranoid. She has paranoia now, not just, so she's become paranoid. Because probably she feels like, okay, everywhere eyes are on her or they're getting information or something. Now, the last speaker said something about our lives are built around our work, and that's the truth. How many hours do you spend at home? You spend 2/3 or maybe almost 2/3 of the hours of your life a day focused on work, either on the road to work, on the way back from work, or at work. So when you look at that, anything that happens around work can actually unsettle other areas of your life. That's why we must be careful. Now, there are things that have worked beyond policies and all that. And I think that, those are the things we want to do. One, let's first of all check if policy supports it in the organization. There may be policies and there are still cabals. So the thing is, you want to be careful how you are for now. If there are cabals and you can't do anything about it, I would say, play chess. Play a game of chess. Check. Okay, so who can I align with in this organization that can, I can pass my issue through? Do you understand? And I also tell people, be a monkey to catch a monkey. Do you understand? So sometimes you have to confront the person. Be sure first and foremost that this is the direction that this person is going. Because harassment can also be explicit or implicit. It can be implied. And the person, you can't catch the person, and the person will say, oh, did I do this to you? Are you saying? So especially when you want to approach the law at some point, you have to have evidence. So it's for us to be careful and make sure that in case it is becoming something that is a threat, to either my existence or to my survival in that organization, I must gather evidence to address that issue. One thing I tell people is don't submit yourself. You can't, once you do it once, either way, you tolerate it, you have to keep doing it. So you can't, at some point, it's a case of, are you sure you were harassed? Don't we know you with this person? You can't even tell people that it was started with a rape or a case of this or that. So it's always best to declare. Don't succumb to it. First of all, confront and be sure that this is what this person is doing, then gather your evidence. Another thing that we can do, and this is something that's happened to me personally, because beyond sexual harassment, we have other types of harassment, right? There's power harassment. Excessive demands are impossible to meet just to make the person's life difficult. So as much as possible, upskill, avoid that person, move out of that unit or to that department if it's possible, but find a way, have a strategy. Finally, I think that people should also have networks and connections, where they can go to work like this. People that can, I have people that talk to me. There was a lady that, in fact, I'm still mentoring her till now, but she was so harassed. She was in an oil and gas, organization, but she was so harassed, so I worked with her on that journey, and to the point where she was asked to leave, she was happy to leave. So you're not playing, you're not dancing to the music. Okay, we are downsizing. You are forced to go. She was happy to leave. So despite the fact that work is important, we should also be able to prioritize. I know that our lives are also important. And once you submit, you have to keep submitting. So there must be ways that you can either fight it, speak up about it if the policy supports it, and enforce that, or find network of people that can guide you or help you transition. Sometimes it is necessary to plan your exits from that organization, because once psychologically you are affected, there was a time in my life that I would be going to work and I would look at Third Mainland Bridge and it would be so attractive to jump out. It can be that bad. So when your well-being is affected, you have to do what? Plan your transition, and then, that kind of, for the people I have worked with, that kind of gives you energy to go through that phase while you are working towards, okay, that it's for a time period, I'm working and I'm on my way out. So if there are questions, I would take, and if there's anything else you want me to talk about, I'd like to stop here because I know there are other speakers as well.
All right, Ayomide, please. I'd like you to take it off from where she just stopped. You heard what she has said. I'd like you to stretch it a bit and probably also add your own view. How I've given a scenario, for instance. For that person, is this really, really practicable? She's talked about ask for change of department. How easy is it for us to change department, for instance? You understand? And I'd like us to talk about those things. Those are the issues I need us to bring up. Those things that we can do to be able to fight this subtle disease called harassment. Work is part of our existence. We can't take it out. And we are not about to take it out because we can't anyway. So what do we do? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Doctor has been spot on. Like, she hit the nail on the head. And I really liked her comment about the practical part of it, because honestly, if your organization's management or leadership that's not their culture, or that's not what they stand for, really, HR has nothing to, there's really no policy or advice that bring to the fore that they would listen to. So, just like I was sharing with you offline, it starts from the top. The tone at the top is very important. So for people who who are, I don't want to use the word unfortunate, but you find yourself in a situation where your organization has management or leadership who is not, in tune with having issues with harassment. Just like it has been established on this call, harassment is not just sexual, right? It stems from other aspects. So if you're in a place where management is not their issue, whatever happens. Those practical steps that the doctor has mentioned are the way to go. And what I just want to sort of draw out from what she has said is having somebody to sort of align with. Now, this is not to say that you're aligning with somebody who you need to also know the kind of person you are aligning with. Does the person, you and the person, do you have aligned values? Are your cultures, sort of aligned? Because you don't want to align with someone who, at the end of the day, would sort of shoot you in the foot because it's to your own detriment. So you need to be sure of who you're aligning with. I was listening to a TED Talk about 3 years ago, and the speaker was saying something about you need to identify. I've forgotten the word that he or she used. You need to identify somebody who is like your godfather. Let me use the word godfather where you work. This is somebody who, anywhere your name is called, that person is going to stand for you. Even if you are wrong at that point, that person knows you so well that they are able to sort of wriggle you out of that situation. This is not, I mean, let's not be, we're all spiritual beings, right? Let's not say, oh, I'm a Christian, no. There are people that you need to identify with where you work, who will stand for you no matter what. When that situation is over, or while offline, they can now scold you and tell you this is what you have done and it is wrong. But just so that we can manage this situation, this is what we are going to do. So in this kind of issue, just like Dr. had mentioned, that is like the most practical thing to do. Align with that person. And I mean, just like I had mentioned, the person needs to also be somebody who your values are aligned. So the person also believes that, no, this person cannot do this. So if this person is saying this, I can stick my neck out, when it gets, when the going gets tough. That's very, very important. And she also mentioned the issue of, sort of having evidence. Most times there are cases that have to do with harassment, sexual harassment. The courts most times may not even be able to help you out, because if there's no proof, okay, if you say somebody tickled you, is there a CCTV camera in your office that is going to show that the person tickled you? There's no medical evaluation that will say somebody tickled you, right? But you don't feel comfortable with that act, so it is harassment to you. But who is going to help you prove it? Except there's another colleague of yours who is able to, sort of testify. So it's important to also get evidence. But while you are trying to get evidence, you need to also be very careful and very smart. I mean, overseas, this is Nigeria, right? You can record somebody while speaking, you can video somebody without their knowledge, and nothing may happen. But in other climes, if you do that, you are also infringing on that person's rights. So whatever you record is inadmissible in court, so you need to also be fine. We're being practical about this, but you also need to be practical and smart, however it is that you are going to go about it. The other thing, this is for organizations who, have healthy cultures and, they frown at harassment in any way. You need to have a whistleblowing policy. I think that is very important. So aside from you having policies against harassment, it's also good when you probably have another channel of reporting harassment that is a third party, completely third party. So it's not HR, it's not your line manager, it's not the MD, it's not a top official executive in that organization. And then it's sort of confidential, it's third party. You have their phone numbers, you have their emails, and then you send your complaints, and they will treat you like, nobody's going to sort of, what's the word?
Anonymous. Make it up.
Exactly, thank you. That's
anonymous.
Yes, anonymous. Treat you anonymously. So one of the places that I've worked before, we had a whistleblowing policy like that. That it was with one of the big fours. I wouldn't want to mention their name, so it's not like I'm promoting, but it was a consulting firm, a big consulting firm. And every employee knew the contact number and had email address. So it wasn't even only employees now. So we had our distributors, you had our suppliers, they had those numbers. So if you notice anything, so maybe not even harassment, it could be a case of fraud, right? And you want to report, and you don't want anybody to just this retaliation, we're speaking about. You don't want anybody to come at you, and then you just go and report. Just dial the number or send an email. This is the issue I have. This is the challenge I have. That organization will take it up, themselves, leaving you out of it. So they'll just bring the situation or the issue to the table of management and say, this is what we got and this is what we heard. We are not going to tell you who, at least in the initial, stages, till they're able to establish that, yes, there's actually an issue. Maybe later on, if there is a need to actually take the case, maybe it has to go to court and all of that, you may want to see who the complainant is and, all of that. But I think that is also a very good channel to have a third party, outside the organization who is able to keep the complainant anonymous. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for the perspective you just brought in. I think I like the whistleblowing part. So that even if it's a false alarm, they would have investigated before somebody is implicated.
Exactly.
You understand?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's something that most organizations, if you're a business owner here and you're an entrepreneur, I think you should put that into consideration too. And if you are an HR person, you don't have that practice in your office, I think you should look at this very, very closely, because it would aid the organization. It will protect everyone, because you just don't jump into
if someone
accusation.
has their hands raised.
Okay, I haven't seen. Okay, I just saw it now. So I'm going to bring up this person. Then after this person, I'm going to bring in Margaret. Margaret is practiced here, and she's outside the shores now. So we want to relate here, Nigeria, with outside the shores, so that we are able to learn one or two things. So I'll bring it. Modupe, you should unmute yourself. Let me try and unmute you. Okay, I see you, Modupe. All right, good. So you're unmuted.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Okay.
Yes,
good afternoon. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Gentlemen.
Oh, okay, and gentlemen. I've been listening carefully to all the submissions from our lawyers and our HR practitioners. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a charter secretary, and I'm also a professional HR person. That said, I have experienced firsthand what we have described as harassment on this forum. But in my organization, there are no policies in place that address harassment of any sort. And if there are, because I'm not in HR where I work, the policies are not in any way enforced or allowed to work. I'll put it that way. Now, I want to give a couple of examples of the kind of harassment I went through. These are things that happened to me as a person, even though I knew they were harassment, even though I knew that there were actions that I could take, but because of my peculiar situation at that time, I was unable to enforce my rights as a person. I was intimidated, I was undermined, I was, even physically assaulted in the workplace. Now, I give the first instance. There's this boss who happened to be the second in command. I hope everybody can hear me. Can you hear me, please?
The background is a bit noisy. Yes, we are.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, where I am, I'm actually at a vocational center, and just bear with me, please. I just took.
All right, fine. Just go ahead.
So now I give this example. I had this boss that was the second in command. On this particular day, he had given me an assignment, which I was doing. As whatever would have it, because I'm not going to say it's God, I'm not going to say it's Satan, but for whatever reason, the system chose that particular time to freeze. So the assignment he gave me, I couldn't print. I tried everything, and I had to call the IT department to assist me with my computer. While that was going on, he asked for the assignment he gave me, and I said, sir, I've done it. The challenge I have is printing it out. The system is just frozen. And then, to my disbelief, he began to verbally assault me. And then, as if that was not enough, he called for a member of staff in the general office to get him a chair from his office, and he sat down in the general office and asked them to bring his cup of tea, and began to abuse me like singing songs of abuse. You know, the way women in what you call them now, rivals in a husband's house will be singing and abusing each other. He began to abuse me with a song.
Co-wives.
Or wives, co-wives. Yeah, thank you. And my colleague, with whom there were two of us that shared the same office. It was everybody in the general office just kept, the whole place became silent because this was the second in command and everybody feared him. So my colleague rushed into the office and said, Madam, can you hear the song that our guy is singing? He's singing for you. I said, and that was at the point I now noticed that he was singing and abusing me, I said, I don't care whether he's singing, and whatever he's singing, I'm deaf to it. But he persisted and was just singing, assistant, mama hand, and he was singing, it went on like for about 5 minutes or so. Then maybe he got tired. He now got up and went back to his office. And the whole division was just in shock. I kept quiet. I now went to, when the head of management services came, I reported that to him. The HR department is under head of management services that reports directly to him. I went to the head of management services and I reported to him. I said, sir, this and this and this and this is what happened. Then I reported to my own direct line manager when he returned from his leave. This and this and this and this is what happened. Do you know that none of them took any action? In fact, the head of management services now told me that I'll say this in Yoruba because that's the way he said it, and I'll interpret it if I can. He said, what I can tell you is that tí ìjà bá pa ìwọ àti ọ̀tá ẹ̀rìn, tí ìrìn bá pa ìwọ àti ọ̀tá ẹ̀ pọ̀, bá rẹ kankan. Meaning that if for any reason you have to, I don't know if the Yorubas in the house can understand what I just said. If for any reason you find yourself on a journey with your enemy, force yourself to become friends with him. That was what the head of management services said to me. And that was the end of it. Hello? Hello?
Can hear you.
Yeah, you.
Okay. And so that was the end of it. Nothing happened. And my immediate boss was just like, well, he was dumbfounded when I told him, but he was also helpless because he was also protecting his own job. So, and I had to live under that toxic atmosphere. Any opportunity he had, he would harass me. If I went to his office for, if I had to do anything in his office, maybe take a job to him and anything, and good morning, sir, he would raise up his eyes and look at me, scornfully. That went on and on and on. I became, afraid. I became, it was just a hell, going to work because our offices were opposite each other, and I had to work with him because he was my direct head of division. Head of is it division, the group head. Yeah. So that happened. And then one other time we had to go for a presentation outside the office to a very big company at Oba Akran. Now I have an old call card, an old business card, and on that business card I had the old Starcoms line that was my official line that was given to me. But when Starcoms left Nigeria, that line became, useless. So anytime, and that it was actually the company that requested that we should use the line, the official line on our cards. So anytime I needed to give the card to anybody, I would have to cross out the line and then put my own personal line there. Because the cards were so many, and to me, being the manager that I am, I don't want to waste company resources having them to reprint the cards for me. So I would just cross out that old number and then put the new number. So here we went for this presentation at this big company. And then one other time we had to go for a presentation outside the office to a very big company at We were trying to win the account of that company. And then we did presentation. My MD was there, the deputy MD, who is this man I'm talking about, and then my direct line manager, and then some two other people were there. So after the presentation, we had to exchange cards, and the group head asked for everybody's card. So I extended my card. My direct boss was sitting by my side. Then the group heads, there was somebody in between my group head. And my direct night manager handed it over to the group head. You know, he apparently had seen me crossing out the old number on the card. The next thing I saw was that he threw the card at me right in the boardroom of that company that we were, pitching for. He threw the card at my face, and the card landed on my nose. You know, hit me on the nose and fell to the floor in front of me. You know, my direct line manager was so shocked. For a split second, he couldn't move. And me, I was just transfixed. I just sat down there. I just felt like something hit me in the face, and I just sat down there. I couldn't, it was just like this was a drama. No, this cannot be real. Because I was shocked, because I couldn't move, my direct line manager now had to stoop down, pick up the card, and handed it over to me, and I was shaking. Out there in that boardroom, I was shivering and shaking. Then he just turned away his face as if nothing happened. Whether or not there were other people in the boardroom, the company, the directors of the company that we went to pitch for, then this other company that invited us, who were the intermediary between my company and this company we were pitching for, everybody was there. But in my shock, I don't know if anybody noticed what happened, but the people on my own side, they all noticed, So after we left that meeting, I was just cold and I was shaking. My legs were just knocking against each other. And when we got downstairs, and I pulled my line manager aside, I said, "Oga, did you see what happened here?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Modupe, I'm as shocked as you are. I can't believe that Oga did that." I said, "Do you know that is harassment? He's actually harassing me. It's as good as him beating me up in public." He said, "Well, so
what happened?
I reported that again to the head of management services, under whom HR, to whom HR reports. And since today, nothing was done. So I had to leave like that until the man retired. You understand? He retired, I think, early 2020 or early 2021 or 2020. And that was the kind of hell those are just two examples of the things I've had to go through in the company. Even though I'm an HR person, even though I know that these are infringements of my rights, but Yorubas will say honor, you just going through this thing because you need this job. So the professionals in the house, if I had to take, like the hashtag Me Too movement, many of the things that happened during the hashtag Me Too movement, they weren't fresh things. They were things that happened, years prior to that movement. But many of them got redressed, But in our context, would you say that, as a victim, maybe this year or next year, when I choose to press charges, would I have a case? You understand? Maybe when I leave the company and I want to press charges, or is there a statute of limitation on this kind
Are you going to press charges against?
Those are just two of the experiences I've had, but I have other experiences. Maybe in the course of this webinar, I'll be able to share them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We heard your story, as in it's a long one. I was going to actually stop you, but then wanted you to just share. Sometimes when you share, you get some form of relief. But I, as a person, I would have said, you make your stand known. At least after that card thing.
Yeah, I did. The two people that I could report to in the line of reports, you know, my immediate boss, I reported to them, and then
hold on, Modupe.
Okay.
Hold on. I was going to say that confront. That was at the point you would have confronted. But then I'm going to step aside and allow Dr. Amoye speak for a very short time. Ayomide would address it 1 minute each. Then we'll take Olushola. Olushola is raising his hand. Somebody was raising his hand also before. I think it's Sam, but I can't see the hand right now. So, Dr. Amoye, please, in a minute, addressing that. For me, I would have said you confront him after the second, actually the other one where you were almost attacked. It should have been confronted. You should have confronted. Then you know what the company would have done. But however, let me allow the professionals to talk about it.
Okay, you mean about the harasser and the...
Let us talk about the last issue that she talked about. What would she have done? Can she still press charges even after the person has retired? The person has left the organization. You understand? So for 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much. So now, you see, when the way I would look at it is this. What do you want to achieve, right? One thing that is the American environment or the European environment, what you hear them say most of the time is, I'm doing this not for myself, but so that somebody else does not have to go through this. So sometimes you ask them, what do you want to achieve? If it's to punish that person, it may not work. Look at what is happening with Bill Cosby, with this man that acted God, that acted this black man, that black actor, Freeman, right? So a lot of people are coming up now to talk about the things they did, not because they necessarily want a redress, but at least put it out there, give people a voice, right? So even though the person has retired, if you want to pursue it, define the reason why. Is it people who are also going through that situation can know that, yes, you can come up, or so that people who are currently experiencing such a thing can also come together. Look at Me Too. Look at the Me Too movement. Me Too, or I Too. I don't know which one we're using.
Yeah, Me Too, yes.
Me Too, right? Exactly. Oh, it's
all right. Thank you. Other people are raising their hand. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you,
Doctor. I'll take Margaret quickly. Margaret, please unmute yourself and let's have a full discourse. Madam Stella, I will take you after now. Let's quickly hear Margaret.
Hi, my name is Margaret. Good to be on the platform.
We kept you for a very long time.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's good to listen to people. Experience. The main reason we're here is to get people's experiences, and how we can help other people.
Yeah.
So, like you earlier introduced me, I practice HR in one of the biggest HR firms in Nigeria. It was very successful. I would tell myself. I pride myself on that because we were exposed to a lot of organizations, big and large. And right now, I started with HR, but because of the privacy issue, I had to step out of HR because it had too many clauses. And I just didn't want to it was getting too deep. I decided to just deviate a little. But one thing, just coming from what the last speaker, Modupe, said, so part of the things I wanted to talk about is how we can avoid sexual harassment, having been in the field and understanding both as an employee and as a recruiter. So I did a lot of outsourcing where we go into companies and we help other people. So I'm looking at it from both perspectives, as an employee and an employer. So as an employee, there's not so much you cannot do, and there's not so much you can do. But there's one thing that I know that has been successful over the years that I've seen is you defining yourself. If you go into a job, be diligent in your job. The first thing I would fault for Modupe, it's unfortunate you went through all what you went through, but the first thing that started it is communication. So if as an individual, you do your job right, and I tell everybody, what makes you very successful on your job is your level of communication, either verbal or non-verbal. If you're very verbal and your non-verbal language is saying something different, there's no way you can tally it. You're saying, oh, I don't want it, but you're like smiling. No, it has to go together. So as regarding your job, you did what you were supposed to do. But at the point you realize that you are not going to meet your deadline, the first thing I would do is send a message to the boss and say, I'm having this technical difficulty. I'll try my best to resolve it. However, if I can't, this is the alternative plan I have to do it. Put him in the loop. Don't wait until it's the last minute, the end of the day, then you now come up and say, oh, it wasn't working. I'm not blaming you for what you did because you didn't give us the nitty-gritty of how that day went. But I will say the strongest weapon for avoiding sexual harassment, either verbal or non-verbal sexual harassment, is communication. Make your communication as clear as possible at every given time and situation. The laws, like the lawyer said, oh, the law in America is different from London, from Britain, but the truth is, SHRM, which is the body, the HR body, is trying to make everything uniform. So it's one governing body that is controlling everything. So the same sexual harassment law is the same everywhere in the world, but implementation is what differs. In Nigeria, they might take some things and say it like, what's this? It was just being nice. But in other countries, they take it more serious. That doesn't mean that the law changes. No, it's just the way it is being implemented. Then coming down to the organizational level, so some organizations, they just they don't want to take things. The Nigerian factor gets into the way they implement sexual harassment. And again, I don't want to go into that part because I've left that for the legal people and HR people to talk about. But what I am going to say, how do you prevent it from coming to you? Number one, be diligent with your work. Cross your T's and dot your I's. I mean, if I say this, it look like I'm a very spiritual person, which means I pray. Because sometimes things come to you that you don't even plan to come to you. So if you might cross your T's and dot your I's, but the devil will still show up. So what do you want to do? Even if you're praying and doing everything you're doing, you want to make sure you are diligent in your job. And proper communication is key. You have to communicate it. If you want it, you communicate it clearly and stick to your communication. If you don't want it, communicate it clearly and stick to that same communication. I think that is the easiest and the most effective way to prevent harassment in your workplace. I wouldn't say, I worked in Nigeria for so many years. I was never harassed for one day. And not because we didn't have enough guys on there, but because I learned this thing early enough and I made my communication clear from the beginning. So those two things are key. For Modupe, I'm sorry all that happened, but I guess you made it grow by just letting it be. You say he's the number 2 person in the company, so at least that fear factor is in there. But there are other ways you would have communicated this to make him see that, oh, I tell people everything. There's no difficult employer. There's no difficult boss. There's no difficult colleague. You just don't have the same communication language. And if you can bridge that gap of communication, trust me, there's nobody that don't like to be appreciated. Irrespective of who they are, the position they are in. You can work with everybody at every level. I'm sorry, my daughter is in the way. At every level. So communication is key. If you communicate clearly, correctly, you can work with people and make people understand your stance. Like I say, when you're communicating, make sure your verbal and non-verbal communication are the same. You don't want to say, oh, I don't like it. Then you're going to say, when are we going clubbing? Are we doing hanging out after hour? You don't mix both. You want to be sure if you're saying this is it, you stick to it. So I mean, I know everybody has said a lot, and I would like other people to speak, but I just, from that stance, I say communication, effective communication, and being diligent with your work would help you, would save you from all of this.
Thank you so much, Margaret. I'll quickly take Ronke. Ronke is raising her hand. After Ronke, we'll take Olushola. Ronke, please unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Oh, good evening. Good to see your faces. Good to hear from you. Yes, Mojisola, or what her name?
Modupe.
Modupe. I felt so much about what you passed through, but yet I want to say that what has happened to you is beyond what you're seeing. Is really beyond what you're seeing. You're looking at it that, okay, it happens that I could not meet the deadline, and that was the reason why he behaved that way. It's beyond that. It's just that he could not say it out. So, it's been addressed, as the first speaker just said, you should have gained it. But now that you have not spoken it, there's a general saying in the office, they will say you cannot win your boss. So, having said that, if you have voiced out immediately, or maybe you have a scene before him that he was trying to nail you at that point in time, and that must have caused it. So the matter had gone and let it go forever. The only thing is that, as Madam Margaret just said, try to communicate. Another thing I want to say is that we have to up our game in our culture. Office should have culture. If you have a laid-out culture, then we should be able to follow it to the latter. Then we have to address these triggers, harassment triggers. The way we dress is the way we are dressed. If, as a lady, you dress in the office and you are half naked, and you are saying a man should not harass you, or your colleague should not harass you, sorry to bring in this, very, very sorry to bring in this. You see our ladies going without bra, and you are saying they should not be harassed. Freedom of everything has spoiled everything. So if we are starting from our home, dress well, be diligent in your job. If you do your job well, nobody will harass you. And if peradventure harassment came, then you should be able to follow through by what Ayomide said. We should have a way of whistleblowing. Then another thing I want to add is that we should have mentor and mentee. When someone comes to the office and you have assigned as such to a leader or to a mentor, that person will say, that will be your confidant, that you're able to say, I'm noticing this in my line manager. I'm noticing this in my supervisor. So if you can confide in a person, then you have your head high there. So I've said that we should talk about our culture in the office place. Our culture is very, very, very paramount. If you dress well, then harassment will likely not come. Then if you have a mentor, you'll be able to address your matter quickly. In the case of Mojisola, if you have a mentor, you have gone to your mentor to say, I've seen this in my boss. How can I address it? Because you can't win your boss in the office place. It's very, very real. You cannot win your boss.
Thank you so much, Ronke. We appreciate your contribution. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to quickly take Sam. Then after I take Sam, I'll bring in Madam Stella. Then take the other people here. Please, Madam Ronke, put down your hand. Thank you. Modupe, you'd have to put down your hand, please. Then I'm taking Sam and Olushola right now. Let's start with Olushola. Thank you.
Okay,
Olushola, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, done. Right. Thank you for having me. It's a good job here, and think I'm enjoying the whole thing, and I appreciate the fact that you put this together to help the system. Mine is from the person. A lot has been said about harassment in the secular world, in the workplace, but I'm going to talk about harassment in a university setting, for instance, where I work. And I'm going to be standing in prosy for my students, because once a teacher, always a student. That's the way I see myself. Yeah. And I just need help. I don't know if there's a way this group can help me out, because I have students complaining about harassment, and they're coming to me once in a while to say this is their experience. And anytime I want to follow up, there's always this issue of withdrawal from their side. And I feel, what? You came up to me to say this is what we're experiencing, and why are you drawing back? Why the sudden change of mind and all that? So I need help. I need advice on how to go about this, how to encourage them, what can I do in an instance like this? I actually need help, because this is a recurrent thing that happens between lecturers and students, and I work in a private setting, and I need to I feel obliged to bridge the gap and be of help to these students. So kindly, I don't know if you have anything you can advise on how to handle such students coming up to complain and eventually withdrawing, and not wanting to follow it up. You now look as if you are just making noise on something that is not in existence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We're talking about workplace. I believe we would also have a space for schools, because the truth is, we know that harassment is very common in our schools. And we had this lady tackling it. I'm trying to remember her name now. Kike, she tried to bring it to the fore so that everybody could see. So we would organize that specially. But first of all, the easiest way to fight harassment most of the time is to have evidence. And for students, I just think you should be an A+ student. That's my candid view. Then if it keeps going on, then you should find a way of having evidence. So we're going to be addressing that. We're already putting lecturers in place and school owners. Then we're also looking at how we can bring in some of the students so that they can share their view on harassment in schools. Okay. So while we don't want to digress too far from it, but
that's fine.
Students should be able to focus on their study. Well, students, for instance, I remember a time a lecturer told me, this one does not even smile. So you cannot come and address someone that does not smile. This person does not smile. Leave the person alone. So you just have your boundaries, even as a young person. You should be able to set your boundaries very early. Some of those young people, those are the things we want to really talk about, especially for the ladies. Even guys get harassed by female lecturers and even female workers now. So having boundaries, and in your boundaries, somebody should see it in your face that this person has boundaries. The person, my lecturer had to stop. So I was laughing with a lady that was in his car. There was a lady, a senior, she was older than me. She was like 3 years ahead of me as a law student at that time. She was in his car, and the man parked in front of me. I didn't even know that anybody used to notice, but I was laughing with her. And the man was like, this one that doesn't used to smile, how come she's laughing with you? So the lady laughed that this one is always smiling. So that's boundaries. If you don't have boundaries, you are going to your lecturer office, you always lose, so to say, because sometimes when you go out of the limit, people take advantage of it. So we're going to be able to talk to students on how to set boundaries and stay within your boundaries. Of course, your academics, you should not joke with it, so that when you're asking the Senate to bring out your scripts and you want to fight it, other people can say, yes, bring it out. We know that this person will not. You understand? Confrontation will come when, first of all, you have your boundaries. But if you're always everywhere with lecturers, it's going to be difficult. So that's what I just want to say. But we'll be treating that in our next episode for school owners and for university students and secondary school students. But that's actually the future of our country. So we need to begin to talk about that even more. So you help me put down your hands now. Modupe, you can join our group. I already put up, Ronke. No, Lushola, sorry. You can join the group so that we can keep up this conversation and know how we can plan towards it. I already put up a link that you can follow to join our group. I'm putting up the link again now so that anybody who is interested in social issues. Social issues are not very, very motivating. So to say, can be very boring. Like, let's think of money issues. You know, if it's on an investment program, now the way I put this message out there, I'm sure I would have like 1,000 people. I'm a marketer by nature, so I know. But then it's a social program, like, we'll manage ourselves like that. Sorry, I had to use that Yoruba exclamation. We'll just manage ourselves like that. That's what we do all over the country, and then it's choking everyone over time. Over time, you go to offices, they tell you to become a certain religion before you can get employment in those places. I'm talking about Nigeria. We know these things. So we need to begin to talk about these things, and we need to begin to build pressure around these things. Because if we don't, at the end of the day, our children, our sisters, our brothers are going to face it. So that's what we're talking about. We may not be able to treat it in our lifetime, but at least we can create the little awareness. So that's what this is all about. So I encourage you to please join the group. Let's find a way we can reach out to people and be of help to people. I'll take these 2 comments. Any other hand that comes in, I will hold on so that we can allow our speakers address Modupe's issue. We need to address that. That's what we are closing on, because we're already behind time. We're going to close on that. Everyone is going to speak on it quickly, and then we'll shut down for the day. So I'm taking Sam, 1 minute. Ogo, after Sam, 1 minute. Ogo, please, 1 minute. Thank you. Let's go ahead. Sam, let's hear you. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the organizers of this forum. It's very useful and impactful. Yeah, I just have a remark and then a comment or a question relating to the last speaker asked. So my remark is that I found out that the issue of harassment, particularly if it's non-sexual, if it's not a sexual harassment, is very difficult to have an evidence-based argument. It must have been occurring severally before you can have an evidence-based argument. And again, many people don't even take it serious if it's not sexual, like verbal and so many other things. So I'm just looking at in the future, what can we do to ensure that, okay, harassment does not necessarily have to be verbal. Does not have to be sexual. If there are other non-sexual harassments too, how can we tackle it and how can we ensure that we have evidence? Then on the second part is that has to do with universities. So I found out that some even happened to me some time ago, that even the supervisor and the student relationship, that even me then, I remember even as a PhD student, because I was not in a very good time with my supervisor. So by the time he was correcting my thesis, the man was angry. You will see a comment like stupid. You see like comment like what nonsense. You see comment like academic text. That means that is a statement I made without I forgot to put reference. Academic theft. You see what are you blind? So I have some of these things I can share with you because I stand in and kept somewhere. So we see comment like this, understand, that are very physically insulting. So what do you think we can do when some of these things happen? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh God, please, you hold on. Let me speak. Let Madam Stella take these questions that have just been raised while also addressing Modupe's issue. Oh God, we'll take you after Stella, please. Please unmute yourself, man. Stella, please. Thank you. Okay, while you're trying to do that, let's take Ogo. Ogo, please go ahead. Unmute yourself and talk. I will unmute you. I'm trying to figure out a way I can unmute you, Stella. But Ogo, please go ahead and talk.
Okay, thank you, Itohan. Let me just go straight to the point. So this harassment thing is, as a woman, is something I have dealt with a lot of the time, sexual and non-sexual, verbal and non-verbal. But I'm a lawyer, but I'm not going to talk about it from the perspective of law or anything, because I hold this very strong view that lawyers, despite knowing the law, because I have a history of working in law offices, they tend to break the law, and I think they have this. A lot of lawyers have complete disregard for the law, but that's not even the issue. But so the way I see harassment, I feel like it's not just a societal thing, but between the harasser and the other person and the victim rather. I think it's let me bring it down to a fundamental level. So on the part of the harassed, I feel that just like what Modupe complained about earlier, it should be dealt with swiftly and decisively. As someone who has been a victim of harassment, I feel that on the part of the person, the complaining person, the victim, I think it begins with an issue as something as basic as complex. If you have inferiority complex, it starts with the person, because if you're scared to deal with it immediately, it grows. So it's not just about dressing. Personally, I feel that one should dress decently, but it goes beyond dressing or competence. One should be able to address it immediately. One is being attacked, and on the part of the attacker or the harasser, I think it goes down to the family. I'm sorry, I'm bringing family into the workplace, maybe because I've been listening to a lot of intentional parenting lectures lately. But the thing is, people lack empathy. People lack emotional intelligence. People are unable to communicate effectively without insulting others or being just mean, right? So I feel, so mean. I've forgotten. I think they call it civility or something in the workplace. And when you bring it up, they start to gaslight you. So on the part of the victim, I feel that if one is confident enough to call this person to order immediately, even if nothing is going to be done, and to be able to set boundaries such that you can even walk away. I know things are really hard in Nigeria, right? And I know I've had to walk away from a job as company secretary because my boss wouldn't listen to me. I'll give advice, right? Okay, imagine asset management company. This guy says he wants to manage everybody's money. He wants to be the sole signatory. Company secretary will not sign. CFO will not sign. Then you call him to order. He tells you, do you know your job? Who are you? How did you even get your law degree? And start to tell you all sorts of very demeaning things and all that. People might not think about it as harassment, but I called him, owner of the company. I wrote an email to him. He disregarded me. I copied the CFO and copied the head of operations. He disregarded. In fact, I called a meeting. In fact, insulted my generation and all of that. Eventually, I had to quit because I just had to draw a line in the sand and move on. And I felt like that didn't even went that far because I was scared. Oh, my job. Oh, I said there's this inferiority complex. Who am I and all that. So first off, it goes down the lack of empathy, the lack of inferiority complex and all sorts of things. This is, like you said, the societal matter is so fundamental. If people don't have the right morals, the right basis, then this thing in Nigeria will not be treated. In fact, when I saw that story about that guy who was lost his job because of what happened, I am in Canada currently. What came to me, I didn't feel sorry for him. I just said good for him, right? So we have to work on ourselves, work on our homes before we can even, to create better people for the workplace. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much. Harassment actually starts from the home. That's why you look at everyone out in Nigeria, we tend to feel harassed and then we'll be laughing. If you're too serious about it, like it's normal. So if we really want to go deep into it, you discover that the harassment actually stems from the home. That would be the final take when we are dropping the curtain on harassment. We need to go back to where it's coming from so that we can treat it. Madam Stella, please, we need you to please address these issues that we have raised in like 2 minutes so that we can, every other person you address quickly. Dr. Sukomi, just hold on. We are rounding up now. Madam Stella, if you are there, please, you have the floor.
Can you
please
hear
just
me?
go ahead. Yes, please.
Yeah.
2 minutes. Thank you. We are rounding up.
I want to mention that harassment is not necessarily verbal and unverbal harassment. It has nothing to do with only sexual harassment. the word harassment is very wide. For example, and we keep talking about implementation. What are we implementing? The Nigerian Labour Law, if you look at it critically, if you study that Nigerian Labour Act, it does not protect the Nigerian worker. For example, under Section 53, the law provides that an apprentice, somebody cannot be an apprentice if he's less than 12 years old. And if he's under 16 years old, the person will not be taken away from jurisdiction without the express authority of the Minister of Labor in writing. And if there's a violation of this provision of Nigerian Labour Act by the employer, he's liable to just pay a fine of 500 naira. And you keep seeing all those things, breaches of the workers' rights, the fine of 200 naira in the Nigerian Labour Act. And I think this Nigerian Labour Act is the act or the law we inherited from our colonial masters. Our parliament should be made to look at this Nigerian Labour Act. There has to be an overhauling of this act so that the act can capture this issue, this other issue that we're talking about this moment. For the National Industrial Court of Nigeria is the newest court in Nigeria. It's doing a lot in the area of unlawful termination, unlawful dismissal, and of course, discharge of the worker without adequately, paying him off. The National Industrial Court Court is doing great in that area. The clear of this harassment, there's so much they can do. The only saving grace we have is the International Labour Organization Convention. And the question I asked, will a Nigerian judge favor the International Labour Organization Convention over above the municipal law of the Nigerian Labour Act? I think he or she should, but in most cases, their hands and their legs are tied up. So fundamentally, our parliament, the National Assembly, the state house of assembly, especially the National Assembly, because the labor matters are under the exclusive list in the Constitution of Nigeria. Our National Assembly look at the Labour Act and go overhaul it to accommodate these issues that we're discussing now, so that we will not be talking about implementing when we don't have laws or policies to actually implement, as we find in civilized mind. That's what I want to bring.
Thank you. So that's why this conversation is really important. We need to keep having conversations like this so that we can bring out these issues. If we don't, those things will just be there. But the more we talk about these things, the more we have bodies that will take it up and then start pushing at amendments here and there. But if we don't talk about these things, we'll keep glossing about it. Okay, Margaret, we are rounding off now. What's your final words so that we can close up this webinar?
So this is Margaret. So it's been very, 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 very insightful. You started the last time. I thought that was it, but this time around, I must commend good progression, and it's a little more helpful to everyone. So not just telling them how to deal with the situation when you're harassed, but preventing harassment in the workplace. So this is very, very helpful. Well done. And I hope you dig deeper, and the word would go out and people would be more comfortable in the workplace and being able to express themselves the right way. The truth is, with social media today, there's no boss. Nigerians will say, pardon my language, but see yala anybody.
Okay, Barrister Ayodele, so much. Barrister Ayodele, are you there? Please unmute yourself. Final words, please. Barrister Ayodele, thank you.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, sir.
Yeah, finally, I will suggest, just as Madam Stella mentioned, that it is high time our legislators look at the Labour Act and make it compliant with modern day challenges of the workplace. We need that a lot. There should be specific legislations to tackle the issue of harassment in the workplace. And I would like to add that sexual harassment is a crime, so to say, and the statute of limitation does not catch up with sexual harassment. if you have your evidence and you have the mental capacity, you have the strength to pursue the case against the harasser, you can pick it up anytime, any day, and take it up against the harasser. I mean, in criminal court, it's a criminal prosecution, but you must have evidence. It is very,
so does
very...
Modupe, for instance, let me hold you there. Does Modupe, for instance, have a claim even after the man has retired?
Yes.
Or would it just be me too instead of, okay?
The criminal aspect of it, she has a case. If she has evidence and she has the mental strength to go all out against the harasser, there is no statute of limitation with respect to crime. You can press charges anytime. That is it.
Okay, thank you all for taking our time to attend. We are going further and further into it. I believe in conversations. I believe so much in conversations, and if we don't have some of these conversations, we'll just keep going around circles. And we'll keep, a lot of us will just keep completely like beef. Then we're not giving it light. So we want to keep throwing lights on this definite. I'm sure we'll make it. So we'll be looking at harassment and see what we can bring out when we are done with this. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Madam Stella, thank you so much. Margaret, you've been very insightful. Dr. Sukomi had to. So we just want to say thank you so much for everyone. Thank you so much for coming officially.
Thank you for the
thank you.
efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You all.